Actually, we can do some introduction on ourselves.
Yes.
So let me start by welcoming everyone who's already here. This is the second edition of the talks between Sitten and Ashtanga Ayurvedics, in which we try to share knowledge about concepts that are interesting to help improve people's health and well-being. In our first session, we discussed the topic of immunity, in which DrGirish Varrier gave us a presentation, which included some theory, some Ayurvedic Sanskrit background, and also some practical tips to help you improve your health. And in case you've missed that, you can watch that session on. It's recorded and it's on the Sitten YouTube channel. You can watch it. And today we are discussing the subject of mental health, and that topic came up actually in the first session. So in the Q&A session, there was a request for multiple sessions, and especially this topic, which we accepted. And in the preparing meetings we had, we discovered that it was not an easy topic. So today's session, we will do similarly like the first session. We will start with some theory, some background from Ayurveda, also from the yogic perspective. We will come later to how that is. Also, we will include some practical tips. There is an opportunity for questions and answers. And in this session, we will also experiment with opening it up to involve everyone to discuss on the subject. So we will have an open discussion. Yeah, so I think this is a good moment to start the subject. Let me also introduce myself. My name is DrGirish. I'm the founder of Sitten, in which I help people develop their work posture, but also their habits. And I present this in collaboration with DrGirish Varrier. Please, can you introduce yourself?
Good evening, everybody. So I am Dr. Girish Varrier. Thank you, Lizette. I am Dr. Girish Varrier. I work as a head clinical services and business development in KS Varrier Ashtanga Ayurvedics Private Limited, which is situated in Trichy. We have a few clinics in Trichy, and we also look at the clinical side as well as the manufacturing side. We have around 350 products for manufacturing. So we have been there since 1936. I'm very happy to say that my managing director is also here, Mr. Shulamani Varrier. So I would like to formally say invite him for today's session. Welcome, sir. So today the session is we have taken up. We had in the last session we had around 2 additional feedback. One was that we need to give certificates, which we have taken up this time. So today, when you give us the feedback form, we would be asking you to please fill in the feedback form with your complete names, so that it is easier for us to fill in the certificates. And your email ID, if it is, if you make sure that it is right, spelled right, it would be great, because we'll be sending the certificates through the email. So that is the first feedback which we have taken up. The second feedback is that it should be, the topic should be on mind. So we took this up as a challenge, because I know the mind is something difficult to look at, and thereby we did invite some questions from a few people. We have a lot of questions. We might not be able to cover all the questions there, but we might be able to put the questions up. Now, today we are actually doing an experimentation. So this is not just the fact that I would be speaking or Lisette would be speaking and then you would be listening. No, I don't believe in that. I believe this should be an interactive session. The reason being, I would start with a story here. So there is the reason behind this particular topic being conducted this way is because I wanted to share a story here. The story is about 6 blind men and the elephant. Now I hope all of you can see the picture here.
Is it visible?
Would it be? I think one of you can say if the picture is visible so that I can go forward with the story.
There should be a picture visible of an elephant.
Okay, there are, okay, in this particular picture, okay, thank you, Erika Roth. So here we see that in the picture it is actually 7 blind men, but it is the story is actually needing only 6 blind men. One example is that these people have not seen an elephant before. The elephant is standing very quietly. So the first, each person is actually standing next to some part of the elephant. The first person touches the trunk and says that it is like a snake, a very large snake. The second person touches the and says it's like a spear because of the sharp end. Third person touches the body of the elephant and says it's like a wall. The fourth person touches the tail of the elephant, says that it's like a rope. The fifth person touches the leg of the elephant and says that it's like a tree. The sixth person touches the ear of the elephant and says that the elephant is like a fan. Now, all of them are right. If you imagine, because they said it is like a fan or like a tree. Of course, according to their purview, they are blind and they are touching it for the first time. They have only touched those parts. Thereby, all of them are right. But they are also wrong because it is actually an elephant. So that is the thing here. Now, if single people, some people like me or Lisette are speaking about the mind, I think I got a dialogue in the chat box saying that the voice is breaking. I hope everybody can hear me now. So all of them are right, but all of them are wrong as well. So similarly, in when we consider manas, that is the mind, if me or Lizard just say about just single viewpoints of what we have, I wear the spectacles of Ayurveda, she wears the spectacles of yoga, and if we talk only about on those terms, we would only be touching certain parts of it. So that is why we needed to keep this as an experiment. We are opening it up for everybody to speak to, so speak out. So with the questions which come up, we would like to speak out on manas. But before that, I'd like to give a small introduction on what Ayurveda says about manas. Manas or mind. Mind is called manas in Sanskrita. In Ayurveda, is actually made up of the trigunas or the 3 gunas. So the 3 gunas are sattva, raja, and tama. Raja is also called as rajas. Tama is also called as tamas. The sattva is the neutral part, which is keeping the mind stable, which is the mind per se. We can call it the mind itself because one of the synonyms of the mind is sattva. It is neutral. Rajas is the activating part of it. It is the hyperactivity part of the manas, which is controlled by rajas. So any positive, I wouldn't say positive, any excessive activity can be compared to the activity of rajas. And tamas is the one which is going to mellow down the manas, keep it soft and keep it in lethargy. Because when I'm talking in the point of view of Ayurveda, I think about mental diseases. So thereby rajas and manas can cause certain diseases. That way I'm talking about lethargy here when I'm talking about tamas. So these are the 3 gunas of the manas which form the complete part of manas. Now manas is also called the Ubhaya Indriya or the Ubhayendriya. Ubhayendriya is because it is connecting the Indriyas to the Sharira. So what are the Indriya? Indriya is actually 5 sense organs: the eyes, nose, the tongue, ear, and the skin. Similarly, we have Karmendriyas. So the 5 which I told about are Jnanendriyas, and we have 5 Karmendriyas, the organs of activity, like our hands, feet, etc. So finally, the 11th one is actually, so 5 plus 5, 10, and 1 is the 11th. 11th one is actually Manas, because it connects these to the body, the Sharira, for understanding. Now, we have more details on this, but I would like to ask Lisa to please take on the stage to talk about an introduction on Manas from the yoga's point of view.
Yes, thank you, Girish. So it's very interesting to hear you speak about the gunas, the 3 elements that form the ever-moving spectrum in which well, life happens. And I think the yoga philosophy is not very different from the Ayurvedic philosophy on mind. What I'd like to start with is actually what is the most quoted definition of yoga, which is a sutra from the Yoga Sutras from Patanjali, and it is it goes as following: Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And my translation of that sutra is that yoga happens if a practitioner or a person, a human being, masters the technique to control all the modifications of the mind. And the fact that mind is part of the most important definition of yoga, for me, is a saying that mind is essential in yoga. Even though most people think that yoga oftentimes is about body. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted. There's a thunderstorm passing by. I hope everyone is still able to hear me.
Yes, Lisa, we are able to hear.
Okay, so mind is essential part of the definition of yoga. And because in yoga what we try to do is to develop ourselves into a state of consciousness, to observe ourselves, and the mind is a part of ourselves. It is not all of it. We are more than just the mind, just manas. There is multiple stuff. Therefore, yeah. So manas, mind is essential, and the way how we start to develop understanding the mind is by using the indriyas. And that is actually the same what you also referred to. So that is my...
Yes, listen, I'd like to add something to that point when you said the mind uses the help of the indriyas to understand something. I can give an example here now. Now, if we go deep into it, it can be something different, but still a base level understanding of... now, everybody sees this here in my hand, that this is a pen. Right? So how do I say that this is a pen? It's because I see it, I touch it, and I have a memory that I can use it for writing. And thereby I know that something used for writing is called a pen or a pencil. And this has ink in it, so I call it a pen. Now, how does this happen? Now, the indriya, how does the indriya work? Indriya or the sense organ, as I told you earlier, this is the netra or the chakshurendriya. The netra is also called the chakshurendriya. This is the indriya, and this is the artha. Artha means the object. Okay, so indriya, and this is the artha of the indriya. So indriya and indriya artha. So indriya artha and the indriya. So light falls on this pen, and the light reflects back onto the eyes. It passes through the UV path and it reaches your retina. It falls on the retina. The retina absorbs the light's information with the rods and cones present in one of the layers of the retina. It transports that information to your brain, the buddhi, which is also part of the whole system, and there the message which has been given from here to the buddhi is added to the memory that it writes. This happens because of manas. This connectivity happens because of manas, and thereby we understand that this is a pen. Indriya, Artha, when they come together, it is called as Indriya, Artha, Sannikarsha. Sannikarsha means joining up. Indriya and Artha, Indriya, Artha, Sannikarsha, it goes to the buddhi, then it is processed there with the help of manas. Thereby, there is also sexual buddhi which comes into the part, but I don't go in detail to that. Then that it is processed there, and thereby we understand that this is a pen. Similarly, every object, not only the pen, any object, when we have such a combination of the usage of the sense organs with an inner memory, we understand. This understanding is based on manas, or the mind.
Yes. And the reason why this is important to understand is that today we have a limited time. We have not only this session, but also, in my opinion, you need multiple lives actually to understand the complexity and the broad sense of the topic. So today we want to focus on this element, right? So the whole concept of manas and mind is is complex and vast. So buddhi translation for the Western audience is like the how do you say it? Please help me if
the physiological aspect of the brain. It is not just the anatomical brain. The physiological working of the brain is called as buddhi.
Yes,
so understand,
that makes the
observation.
Processing. Yeah.
Exactly, so the processing happening. So that is the buddhi. Now, I would suggest that we have a few set of questions which I would like to. Now, both of us have done an introduction on the topic. Now we'll open the questions. So the first question would be how to, manasika rogas, or the diseases of the mind that afflict the mind, the problems afflicting, not just diseases, the problems afflicting the mind. How do we get over it in a general sense of way? I think that is the first question, is it, Lizette?
Yes. Unfortunately, your microphone is cutting again. So the first question would be how this is better.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. So the first, we have a set of questions as mentioned earlier. The first question being how to overcome problems of the mind, or I don't say diseases. There are many other problems. It's not just always diseases. So how do we overcome these problems is the first question, I think, isn't it, Lizette?
Yes, it is. Exactly.
So we have two ways of tackling such problems. This is in a generalized sort of way. We have the Ayurvedic point of view as well as the yogic point of view. Now, I would ask Lizette to start with the yogic point of view on how to tackle problems with the mind, because I have a connectivity to them.
Yes. Well, there is we need to distinguish that once there is already problems, you need to get there is a different level of help. But for now, we like to limit ourselves to how to avoid adding new problems. Can you mute yourself?
Yeah.
Thank you. So to avoid getting new problems, the yoga philosophy has advice, or suggests that you practice yamas. Yamas are basically sort of ethics, and there is 5 important, which is ahimsa, which means non-violence. There is satya, truthfulness, asteya, not stealing, brahmacharya, I hope my Sanskrit pronunciation is correct, meaning sexual restraint, and aparigraha, meaning non-possessiveness. So according to the yoga philosophy, those are if a human being, for example, lives without doing harm or violence to other beings, humans, animals, environment, it would prevent them from creating new disturbances in the mind. Because if you steal something or if you hurt someone, inevitably it's going to create a disturbance in the mind. So that would be the yogic approach to avoid new mental disturbances. So is there a similarity also in Ayurveda? Wait, in YouTube?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, listen. So, in our when we are studying Ayurveda, in our first year itself, we have a text called the Ashtanga Hridaya. So, in Ashtanga Hridaya, in the first chapter itself, we have the listing of 10 sins. 10 sins, including sins of the body, sins of the tongue, and sins of the mind. So, the sloka goes on like this: Himsa stheyam anyada kamam, paishunyam parisha andritam. Sambhinna alabam vyapadam avidya drig vipareya. Papam karmeti dashada kayavak manasais tyajet. So it means that again himsa is violence, steya is actually stealing, anyada kamam is desiring for others objects or others property. Paishunyam is actually pointing out others' mistakes and scolding others. That cannot be the that can be the exact translation of that word paishunyam. Parisha is actually abusive or harsh words. The word parisha can also mean anything rough. So parisha vakya means harsh words. Paishunyam parisha andrita is untruth. Talking untruth is also bad. Sambhinna alapa. So any kind of speech which causes dissent or which causes separation of groups or separation of two individuals, that is also bad. Sambhinna alapa. Vyapada is actually quarreling or intention with the intention of harming. So unnecessary argument or quarreling is can be considered as vyapada. And abidya is jealousy. Avidya is jealousy and not tolerating others' good. If somebody is, it's okay if somebody is getting good out of life and you feel that, okay, I also need to get that. But it's not okay if you think that he is getting something good out of life. It should not happen. So that is actually avidya. And then drik viparya. Drik viparya is actually finding fault in the wrong sense. You know, it's like criticizing is fine, but if you are just criticizing for criticizing sake, so that is called as drik viparya. So these are the 10 sins which are to be avoided, of which the first 3 are of the body, the next 4 are of the tongue, and the last 3 are of the manas. But I think all these are important because all these has a root in the manas. So if we avoid these 10 sins, we can be happy. That's what kaya vak manasais tyajet. So from the body, from the vak, that is the tongue, and from the manas, it has to be sacrificed. The word tyaja is actually to sacrifice. It means that you have to throw away these 10 sins from the body, the mind, and the tongue. So that is the connection here, Lizette. So I think the yamas is actually or indirectly telling to stop us from doing the 10 sins as well.
Yes. Well, and also when you say 10 sins, our Western culture also has all kinds of sins, and I see strong similarities. So those, I think, is excellent advice to prevent future mental health. So maybe we can now also discuss or go to the present mental disturbances. Maybe in our audience there's people with questions or with thoughts. So do you think this is the moment we open?
Exactly, Vincent. I think this is the right time to open up the discussion for anybody to have any kind of additional information so that we can also learn, or if they have any questions, we can try to answer, because it is Manas. I will always say we can only try to answer completely.
Yes. So people can unmute, people can write. And if there is no interaction happening, we have also a set of questions that were already asked in preparation to this, but in case anyone likes to join, or please feel free. Hi, I see Martina joining.
Hello, good afternoon. I have quite some questions indeed about mental health. But the one that pops up at this moment is, first of all, the information we just got about jealousy, etc. Is it possible to write it down in the text? Was it very fast?
The 10 sins?
Yes, you mentioned jealousy.
Sure.
Things that can disturb. It went pretty close, so I could trace it.
Sure, I'll put that in the. I have already started typing it.
Good.
So.
Yes, I see.
So in the chat box, for everyone's information, Dr. Girish is writing the Sanskrit words. And while Dr. Girish is typing, I'd like to also read another one of the questions actually that was that we received. Let me see. I have at least a list of 15. What can we do to prevent mental disease was one of the questions, and to prevent future disease. Is there anything we can do to tackle current mental disturbances? And from the yoga perspective, of course, there is many ways to deal with this, and the first thing that comes to my mind is meditation. Meditation is actually concentration, and concentration is a thing that happens in the mind. And a way to meditate is to control the breathing pattern. The breath is also an important element to influence the movements of the mind. So by counting the breath, the steps of the breath, you directly influence also the speed of the thoughts. So one thing you could maybe make a note, or I'll type it later in the chat box. If you try to make the length of the inhale equal to the amount of the exhale, and also take a pause. It's called retention of the breath. So for example, 3 counts you inhale, then three counts you exhale, and then 3 counts you pause your breath. And once you are able to do that without any stress, or without that it feels difficult, you add 1 extra count. So 4, 4, 4. 4 inhale, 4 exhale, 4 pause. And with that you can increase the amount of counts infinitely until maybe it's too long. But then your automatic nervous system will take over and will force you to inhale. If you stop breathing for too long, it might end actually life. So that would be from yogic perspective an advice you could do immediately to influence the mind. Dr. Girish, I'm not sure if you were able to listen here, but maybe Ayurveda has an answer.
So Ayurveda actually talks about removing these tensions from your body. One thing, it is not only a preventive aspect; it is also a curative aspect. Now, if you are already into, you understand. So the first thing what Ayurveda says is that you should be understanding your problem. Now, Ayurveda, not only Ayurveda, even in modern psychiatry, it is mentioned that whatever trouble you have in the mental setup, the understanding itself is a good step for curing. So for treating, I would say, I wouldn't say curing always, but in some cases treating and some cases curing. So here as well, when we look at issues with the mind, understanding that you have done something of maybe it might be among these 10 sins that you might have committed, or it might also be some other reason. Maybe, okay, I have a problem, at least understand that I have a problem, and then come to terms with that, thereby dealing with it is the first step. Now, dealing with it has many options. Now, it talks about treatment, a lot of treatment aspects, including certain panchakarma therapies. Virechana is mentioned, Vamana is mentioned. There is therapies of the physical body, which is also done. There is also some methods of interacting with the patient by the doctor, that is also mentioned in our text on Nasaroga. So where the counseling is given much importance. So if you see in Ayurveda, if a patient comes in, now in most other sciences, what happens is, most other health sciences, what happens is, we have specializations. We have specialists of the thumb and the middle finger, and we have specialists of the little finger. We have specialists of the nail of the little finger. So it is good that science has evolved so much, but it is also not proper if you do not look at the whole. So in Ayurveda, even though we have specialties, like I am a specialist in ophthalmology, we still treat the whole body. So for any manasika rogas, we do understand that it is not only for manasika roga, for any roga or any disease in general. When the patient comes in, counseling is the first thing which Ayurveda's acharyas have mentioned, because Drishyam. So when the patient comes inside, observing the patient is the first thing. Second thing is touching the patient, and then only comes the questioning part. Darshanam, Sparshanam, and Prashnam. So Darshanam is watching the patient, Sparshanam is touching the patient, and then Prashnam is the questioning. So most of the time in most modern day hospitals, we understand that there are a lot of patients around. There is no time for the doctor to sit and take time with the patient. So that itself is actually cutting down on the cure. Now, if we give enough time to the patient, we listen to the patient, we touch the patient, that itself is 50% of the cure, I would say. So that actually helps, because that is also part of the counseling. You start talking to the patient in detail. So that is part of the treatment itself. Only then comes the medicine part. I think medicines should be the last aspect. So it is always listening to the patient, understanding the patient, touching the patient, and then going forward with the medications if necessary. That's all. So that is what Ayurveda talks about. It talks about generally every disease like this, but in Manasaroga also specifically it has mentioned like this.
Does this answer your question? Or is this giving new, there is no answers, there is no right answers, there is a new light on the subject.
And if you talk about medication as the last part, then you talk about food supplements, herbs, and treatments, I guess.
Sorry, I muted you. You need to unmute.
Not always. So sometimes you don't even need to give that. I am a practitioner who don't believe in every patient I see, I should give something to the patient. No, I don't believe in that. I believe me giving time to the patient itself is something which can work out. There are patients who need only that. Now, if I listen to the patient, I give some solution to the patient, that is enough. The time is more important rather than the medicines. And now on a commercial scale, if you think, of course, selling the medicines and the supplements or giving some specialized dietetic advice is also seen properly. I don't say that is wrong, but what I say is for those who don't need it, I stay away from giving that to the patient. So I feel most of our doctors do that. So that is a good aspect we should be thinking about. So the supplement part, there are some things which can come from the natural herbs itself. So I feel that if you take care of your food, if you take care of the timings of your food, if you take care of the quality of your food, that itself acts as a supplement. Thereby sleep well, do some exercises, thereby it gives a big solution. I feel that around 60% of psychiatric afflictions, I don't say illnesses, afflictions can be corrected by these methods itself.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's a nice new light again on the matter. I noticed there is in the chat there is something happening. So Ramkumar Ravindran has typed.
Excuse me. So this particular person, Ramkumar Ravindran, is a psychologist. It's here on, I invited him to come here. Welcome, Ramkumar.
Thank you, Girish. Thank you so much. So it's a wonderful talk. Nice listening to you both and how to say traditional methodology, which is time tested for thousands of years, and both the perspectives give a lot of insight, which is more beyond than any other medical text can explain on this particular topic. As a psychologist, I always feel inferior to Ayurveda.
Sorry, Girish, I muted you again. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a psychologist who has done his psychology from Europe, and he's practicing in Trichy right now. He is also actively participating in many discussion forums which we have on comparisons between the traditional systems and the modern systems. So I really am happy that he's part of this program. So let us look at the chat part. Most of the time our impulses that leads to negative mindset and behavior are unplanned. Yes, of course, yet leading to guilt or justification. How to avoid such impulses?
So
It is Lizette, would you like to answer that first?
yes. Let me mute you again. So did you unmute yourself when you want to?
I'll do that.
Yeah. So how to avoid such impulses? That is, I think, at least if I speak for myself, one of the most difficult challenges to overcome as a human, because that is, the impulse is also what makes us human. And for what I think that the yoga can add is yoga, as I said in the introduction, is more than just a physical exercise. It's also more than a meditation, which is the mental restraint. It is. It also comes with the behavioral advices. But what I do feel with at least asana practice, which is the physical practice, and breathing, the practice itself will help develop something in the human that taps into the pure self, the soul, the consciousness, and by practicing and connecting with that source that I believe every living being has, it will come out. It's just a matter of establishing connection, and there is many different ways how to do that, depending on which character you are and what is your preference. Because if you practice with something that is close to your preference, it's easier to connect. But I think that from the yoga perspective is how you not avoid such impulse, but you basically give power to that thing that has no interest in the impulse to be impulsive. And I'm curious, again, Dr. Girish, to hear what your response is.
Yes, so here what you said is very right, Lisette. So what Ayurveda indirectly says is one thing. Now, the mind can be considered like a horse. Now, when you have a wild horse, it is full of energy, it runs around. Even if a domesticated horse is left out in an open public field, it has a lot of energy and it runs around. So that is good. That's fine. Now, what Ayurveda says is that bridling of the horse. Now, if you have a horse, you keep a bridle. If you pull too much on the bridle, it's not going to help. Neither are you if you going to leave it free. That is also not good. So what it says is the right amount of bridling, the right amount of control on the horse, and the horse doing it voluntarily, not just this on the bridle. So that works out on controlling the horse rider and the horse having a very good time together. So similarly, in mind, okay, we understand that we have now. First thing is, as I told you earlier, it is the insight. So it's called the insight. When the insight is understood that okay, it is mostly our impulses which is causing negative mindsets and behaviors unplanned. We have been hurt by that. Yes, fine. The first part that we have we are understanding that we have understood that itself is the first step. The second step is the bridling part. So okay, now I can at least. I might not be always making sure that the mind cannot wander, but I can at least make sure that at some points in my life, at some points in my time in a day, I can at least make it concentrated on one particular subject or one particular aspect, thereby keeping the mind under control for a very short time at least. This practice, this is called as practice. So if this practice is done regularly, if it is like vyayama or exercise, if this practice is also done regularly, then it helps in slowly getting out of the situations. So avoiding the impulses happen, understanding the guilt and getting out of the guilt also helps. Justification does not come at all. It does not happen overnight. It has to be done over a period of time. I think that is where yoga has a beautiful role, because some people, it is very difficult to directly go to the mind and have a control on it. So that is why there are parts of yoga which talks about even the bodily control, thereby helping in the mind control. Now that itself is a separate big topic to talk about, how the physical control and the mental control happens together. But that is part of the exercise protocol where you come to control the mind. Yoga to yunjat yoga. So the binding together of the body and the mind into one mixture is called yoga.
Yes, yoga. Also, the literal translation of that word means union, right? So that is might give it away also that it is a connection of all kinds of stuff, which for me is a nice bridge to another question that I saw in the chat, put in the chat by Mr. Sasi Varrier. He put a quite a tough question, if you ask me. Is the mind same as the brain? Well, the quick answer would be no, but of course, at least it would be my answer, but it would be more interesting to understand why it is no. But maybe Dr. Girish, you can answer that.
Okay, so I can take up that challenge. So the brain is can be considered as the mastajka in Ayurveda. In Ayurvedic point of view, it's not given much importance at all in Ayurvedic studies. Because the manas is not just seated on the mastajka, it is spread all over the body. So the mind is actually spread all over the body. So you have the ura hridaya, that is the hridaya in the chest, and the shira hridaya, the hridaya in the head. So thereby, that is how it talks about, Ayurveda talks about the manas. So manas is not limited or restricted to the brain. The brain is the physiological or the anatomical entity which does some physiological limited functions to, for the mind. So the processing part happens here. The mind takes it up and the mind gives you the beautiful picture.
That is a nice way of answering, and I hope understanding. at least for me. So I remember in our preparing talks, we came also up with the analogy of a computer, right? So that the computer is much more than just a screen and, well, the keyboard and a mouse and whatever, and it all together makes the computer, and it has to process energy, and maybe there's a printer. And, anyway, maybe to stay true to our experiment, maybe there's someone in the audience that would like to add another explanation to this question before we continue to the next. Please reveal yourself if you are the one who can enlighten us. If not, then
I think Ramkumar has something to add.
Hello.
yes, please.
I would like to say the same way as the analogy brought by Lucid. Brain is just a flesh and mind is the mystery happening within it. And yet we haven't understood mind so far. It is still a mystery. And it is continued to be, because we are not, up to my perspective, I believe that we have not attained the level of consciousness to understand the mystery of brain so far. We have to evolve.
That is some food for thought, Ramkumar. Yes, I think it also leads to some deeper conversation. I think we should be having, Ram.
Sooner or later.
Soon. I think, shall we move forward with the next question, or Ram has anything more to add?
No, just go forward.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, please. So I think the next part of the question is mind a part of the consciousness, by Martine Wootman.
Can I try and attempt this question? So what I understand is mind in the broadest sense is not just manas, right? Manas, what we started with, is a part of mind, and consciousness is also a part of mind. So consciousness is that which witnesses. In yoga, they say you have the part of you that witnesses, that views, and that part that is being viewed or is being witnessed. So my answer to this would today be, because maybe tomorrow I'll think different about this, is consciousness is a part of the mind. And in Sanskrit, there is a word that's called buddhi. Let me type it. I think if you Google that or do some reading on this, it is a very interesting topic, which we can also spend many hours, and I know in the past in the preparation we have spent already many hours trying to find words to explain quickly and clearly what this all is. But yeah, so consciousness is part of the mind. Do you have anything?
I would also like to add something on that. So as I told you earlier on the origin of manas, it is actually not only the manas, it is called origin of the chikitsa purusha, or the body which is needing treatment. The body in the sense it is including the physical body and the mind. Okay, so the origin of this is called as the Chaturvimshati Tattva, or the 24 Tattva. Tattva is theory. The 24 hypothesis, I can call it. The 24 hypothesis is actually starting with avyakta. Actually, it starts with Prakriti and Purusha, the male and the female part of nature, joining together to form something which is avyakta, which is not understandable, like an atom which you cannot see through a basic microscope. It then evolves into something bigger, Mahan. So that is like a molecule. And this Mahan attains the consciousness at this level. That is called as Ahamkara. Aham means me. Kara is the sense of me. So that is consciousness. So ahamkara is attained by Mahan. And this forms the Sattva, Raja and Tama, thereby forming the mind. So in Ayurvedic point of view, the ahamkara comes first and then the mind is formed. Because it is part of the Jivatma and the Paramatma difference. Now the Jivatma is the Atma which is going to pervade into our body, or that is also part of the consciousness, which is, I'm not talking about too much of spirituality here. What I'm talking is the sense of understanding, the basic level of understanding. So the sense of me is actually because of the Jivatma having the aspect of ahamkara, the consciousness, the me coming in, thereby differentiating it from the Paramatma, the eternal power, or I would say the eternal source of energy.
So can I then conclude that it is not a part of the mind?
You cannot say that even, because ahamkara continues to be present. Ahamkara is not going to dissipate when it separates into sattva, raja and tama. Ahamkara continues to be present, keeping the mind healthy, making the mind, helping the mind in the understanding part. So ahamkara and mind cannot be compared with each other. We cannot say one is big or one is small. Ahamkara and mind come together to help in indriyartha sannikarsha, thereby the buddhi to work properly.
Dr. Girish, in this, I would
Yeah.
like to add a point over here, shall I?
Please go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Please go ahead.
In my opinion, I believe that consciousness is something like a fuel, because without consciousness, the mind cannot work. And as Lisette said, that it is the hardware part of the computer and the mind is the software part of the computer, whereas consciousness can be treated as the electricity which powers both. Because without consciousness, I think that the existence of manas is so subjective, which we haven't experienced so far, because a person without consciousness cannot be considered having a processing mind. And despite having brain, the mind cannot work without the consciousness. So I feel like consciousness being the fuel or the energy source for the mind to function.
I agree with that, Ram. I also like to say that what you said is completely right. But the presence of the mind is always there. The mind might not work properly without consciousness. The presence of the manas is always there because the presence is actually independent of any other factor, because it is part of the origin of the body itself. So the mind is present, but it cannot be utilized because ahankara is not working.
Yeah, that is true. As you said, the sannikasha of all the three is meaning to everything, rather than the individual existence, individual coexistence.
Exactly. That is the sannikasha that is happening there. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I hate to be a game changer or interrupting the game and the fun, but as we promised, we would have sort of a time cap to this. Now I'm okay going a bit beyond our hour, but part of the reason why we do these webinars is not only to explore the topic, but also we want to present the audience with some practical solutions. So we came up with some advice which everyone can apply in their daily life, even today, to affect this very moment, the mental state. So I think now the time has come, so maybe we can transition into that part of the topic, and maybe after that, if there are still people interested in exploring more the theories and exchanging ideas, we can go back to that. What do you think, Dr. Girish?
I agree. I agree. So, Lizette, shall I go on and share the stuff which I have?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Hello, this is Shivkumar here, and very good evening to all of you. And I was enjoying the conversation, the discussion that took place. I don't know whether my question will be pertinent or not. I have been following a kind of paleo diet, a semi-paleo diet for the last 4 years, and this diet has helped me to reverse my diabetes. So my HbA1c came down from almost 12 to almost less than 6. No, I wanted to know, are there any parallels between that diet and Ayurveda? Because paleo diet is a one size fits all. But Ayurveda, what little I understand is there is a kapha diet, there is a pitta diet, and are there any parallels that you can draw, or they are totally poles apart? Am I asking a pertinent question?
The question is very good, sir. So the thing is, the kapha, pitta, and vata diet formation is actually not very exactly true in our texts. It's not mentioned like that. Whatever you find out in the market is actually come out of commercialization. So there is no particular kapha diet, pitta diet, or vata diet. So the diet formation is somewhat not very particular, very what do you say, individualistic, because only medicines are more individualistic. The diets can be coming under a larger purview of people, a larger purview of the prakriti. So it is not that a person with kapha predominance should be taking only this kind of food, or the pitta predominance should be taking only this kind of food. What Ayurveda talks about diet is that these type of foods in these type of individuals works optimum. That's all. So it doesn't say that he should be having only this and only that. Now, in case of reversing diseases or disorders, Ayurveda talks about Shatrasa Yukta Ahara, the Ahara which has all the 6 ingredients of taste. I wouldn't say it is exactly the taste. I would say I can correlate it with Madhura to be carbohydrate, and something like that. So you can correlate all the tastes to certain parts of your food. Now, Shadrasa Yukta Ahara is the one thing which Ayurveda says is going to give you energy and give you health. Now, depending on the person having what kind of disease they have, depending on that, the levels of this has to change. That's the only thing Ayurveda says, and that is why it is very in that sense it is very personalized, keeping in mind that the person is having this kind of trouble and this kind of particular problem he is undergoing. So thereby we adjust the food accordingly. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So if you would, could share.
Shall I start?
Yes, please. Maybe while you start the things we prepared, I can fill the time with a yoga posture, because to also maybe the expectations that from yoga perspective, there will be at least one asana that is shared.
Listen, I'm facing a problem when I'm pressing the share button. I find only share file and new whiteboard. I don't find the share screen page.
Okay, I'll share then the material from my computer.
Okay.
So while I'm opening the file from my computer, I can then fill the time with that one posture. So what I thought would be the most relevant to share is how you can immediately affect calming the mind. So when we find in a daily life the mind consumed, and there is a lot of turmoil, and at the end of the day we want to go to sleep, and the mind is still active, and the active mind prevents you to go to sleep. One very easy posture you can do is to, it's called the legs of the wall. It is you lay yourself on the floor with the head and the back on the floor, and then you bring your legs up. And if you don't have a wall, you can also just bring your legs up. But for most people, it is easiest to have a wall so that you can let the legs rest against the wall. You could even put a pillow or maybe some book under your tailbone so that the buttocks are a bit lifted from the floor. And just spending a few minutes resting with the legs up will make the blood flow and the blood pressure turn around, and that will have an immediate effect. And while laying down there, you can easily also add the breathing exercise, which I mentioned earlier, which just to find the similar amount of time that you inhale, exhale, and also keep the breath, the retention of the breath, so that you keep it quiet. So that is legs up the wall. There is also a Sanskrit name for that, which I have to apologize for. That is slipped my mind because I'm multitasking and my brain, my working memory, the computer is having some difficulty. So you'll have to excuse me for that. Dr. Girish, if you could take over the microphone, then I can open the... Oh, sorry, I'm unmuted.
Okay, so yes, while you are actually sharing the picture there, I would also like to, I have made it into a PDF as well, so that all of the members present here can utilize this, the thing which I have made. So before that, I'll just, once you share it, I can explain it a little bit, and then I can share the PDF to everybody so that they can have it with them. So there's the screen is actually being shared.
Is it coming?
The mind tea, yes. So this is a PDF. The mind tea, nourish your sattva. Sattva is the mind. Sattva is the another name for the manas. Please go on, listen. So first thing I have named it as, not just me and Lisette, we have sat together and named it as clarity. Okay, clarity of the mind, keeping in that sense. So it improves the clarity of mind, it increases the attention span, it improves concentration. Now this is things which you find in your market directly as the herbs itself. So which you can apply at home. So it's not like I'm actually promoting some product here. It is just something which you can mix up and create a concoction and drink at home. So clarity is made up of bacopa. This, the first picture, the big picture of a plant is actually that with the leaves is actually bacopa. Bacopa moneri is also a drug in Ayurveda, used in Ayurveda for cleansing the mind. So it is called as Brahmi. So there is also Manduka Parni, which is also called as Brahmi. So that is another plant. But here bacopa is the ideal plant used for clarity. Now basil, all of us know about basil and lemon and honey. This combination helps in creating clarity of the mind. If you utilize this, it works wonders on the physiology. It helps in proper digestion as well. It cleanses the mind very well. So this is one thing. The next thing is, Elizabeth. Yeah. So the next tea we have named it as serenity. So serenity is actually for stress relief, to sleep peacefully, calming effect on the mind. If you remember in my last session about immunity, I had shared some teas there as well. So similar, I would also put that separately in a PDF and I can share it to you later through mail. So this is serenity, so calming effect of the mind. So what are the combinations here? The chamomile can be used. It is very much present in the European market. You can have Indian ginseng or winter cherry. It is also called as ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is actually a very good herb in Ayurveda. It has many aspects. It not only strengthens your body, it also strengthens your mind, giving peace to the mind. Then basil again is coming up. Now I have also taken the liberty to add the picture of honey here, because if you are drinking a herbal tea, adding honey would actually add the sense of taste along with the other taste of the plants, so that palatability is increased. So honey is also added. Honey also has some properties of calming the mind. The next one. The third one, we have named it as sanity. So it is for cleansing the mind. It improves the mental functioning. It is a nervine tonic. Now, if you remember in the last session, I had talked about certain small aspects of physical health with small quantities, and finally I had gone on to immunity, which takes care of everything. Similarly, in this session, sanity takes care of everything. So the next thing, next page. So sanity is a combination of lemon, thyme, Indian ginseng, chamomile, and honey. I think this combination is a very good combination for keeping the mind healthy. And I think even Listen can vouch for this combination.
Yes, so it's very tasty.
It is very tasty as well. So this combination also is a beautiful combination for the mind. And earlier, when you were talking about the posture, Lisette, I had seen a comment in the chat box. I can vouch for what Lisette says. I have tried it. So that is from Mr. Shashi Varrier. The posture you had mentioned. So after sanity, please move on to the next page. So I have put some mental health boosters examples here. These can be got as supplements. Many companies make it. I've just put the picture of what our company makes. So this is Amalaki, Indian gooseberry supplement, as well as ashwagandha supplement. So these can be an added advantage. This can be taken by healthy individuals. It's not prescription medicine. So if you do not find Amalaki fresh, or if you do not find Amalaki powder to mix, Amalaki is gooseberry powder to mix into your tea, at least you can have a supplement. Similarly, ashwagandha as well. So ashwagandha is Indian ginseng or winter cherry. So if you do not find it for mixing it into a tea, if you can get your hands on supplements, that is good. So this is available by most of the companies. This is very much available everywhere. So with that, I would come to the end of that presentation. I would share that PPT here. If anybody wants, they can download it. In a second, I'll be sharing it. So Lizette, I think there is one more question.
Yes. Can this posture also be used with someone with high blood pressure? Yeah, so that's a good question, because the high blood pressure posture questions, you also always have to be careful with inversion. Sorry, I'm going to mute you again. Yeah, so the reason why you ask probably is because, yes, high blood pressure and inversion. Inversion means that you bring the body upside down, which always you have to be careful of in case of blood pressure. Actually, this posture, this particular posture, is the most safe variety to do, because the buttock is almost at the hips are almost at the same level as the heart. So there won't be too much pressure, but because the legs are up, still the effects are going to affect the body. So I would say you can do this particular posture with high blood pressure. What I always like to say is you are the boss of your own body. You are the judge of your own body. Use your mind wisely when you put your body into positions. So if it doesn't feel well, try to discover why it doesn't feel well. It might be uncomfortable, or it might be because it's unhealthy. And this is where the body can do a practice to see if it is uncomfortableness, which usually is not bad, or when there is something which leading you to unhealthy, which of course is not good. But yeah. I wouldn't worry with this particular posture about unsafe practice.
I think, yes, I can vouch for that. Even people with increased blood pressure, I have asked them practice this posture and they do not have any problems. I have patients who have done this because Lisette helps me in taking care of my patients with her advice. So I have done that to my few of my patients who so we actually help each other out. So most of the time when she has some queries on the medical side, or if I have some queries on the posture side, we actually help each other. We work together.
Exactly. So time-wise, we have come to the end of the session. I think for what we have prepared, we also have well, there's a lot of things we haven't discussed, but there is simply also sometimes things that just happen. If people want to leave, feel free to leave. If you want to stay, I'll be staying here a little longer, and I think Dr. Girish, you can also stay a little longer. That any additional questions?
It's actually fine, Lizette, but I think we can share the feedback feedback form as well here. So people who would like to leave, they can also fill in the feedback and go. Okay, I have a question, not a question. Sessions of the light for humanity. Thanks and kudos, Lizette and Dr. Girish.
Thank you. That is very nice.
I would also like to add that the PDF I was not able to share in this WebEx meeting screen, but it's okay because if you have registered, we have already got your email ID. We'll be sharing, otherwise, if you haven't registered, you can put in the feedback. We'll still get your email ID where we can share you the PDF of the tea combinations.
Yes.
It would be great to get feedback from all of you. And I know this has been a very short thing to talk about, but I am still here. If anybody needs to continue the conversation, that can be done. One thing. Second thing is we'll be soon having other sets of such meetings as well. I think I feel good about this particular meeting because we have an open discussion forum. So I know what works out when it is an open discussion, when people have different ideas. One good example is that we had discussions with Mrs. Devika Varrier as well, my better half, who is also present here. So she also remembers that we had very in-depth conversations on the Manas together, me, Devika and Lizette.
Yes.
Okay, there is a question there. Can you add crushed ashwagandha tablet to the tea? What are the ratios in the tea? So the ratios in the tea, it is fine. The combinations is just what do you say? When you're if you are having powder, it would be just 2 teaspoons of any of the products which I have mentioned. 2 teaspoons is fine, but none of these have side effects. So it is okay if you go beyond 2 teaspoons as well. But when tablets are being added, I would suggest just go for 1 tablet in a tea. Because 250 mg of tablet, mostly the tablets are 250 mg. So 250 mg is more than enough, and it would be concentrated when it is in tablet form. So I think if you are taking a tablet or a capsule, within 500 mg is very safe. So 1 tablet or 1 capsule is enough.
And then are you saying per day?
Huh?
Per cup or per day?
Per cup. It is okay. None of this is going to have an overdose issue with you. So whatever I have mentioned here are very safe herbs.
There's a question added. How many cups per day?
2. Morning and evening. Just 2.
There was in preparation of in preparation of our session, we had a question how to avoid stress. Is there anything maybe you can add to that? Sorry, I muted you again.
So avoiding of stress, we need to understand that stress is something which is very much in our control. But even then we understand that it is not always under control. We do fly off the handle. I think that is the right expression. We do fly off the handle once in a while. So that is okay as long as you understand what stress is and what needs to be done. So avoiding of stress, Ayurveda talks about 3 dinacharyas, the daily regimen. So the first daily regimen or dinacharya which can be practiced is sleeping at the proper time. So I wouldn't say proper time nowadays is actually night because everybody has different shifts to work, but sleeping at least within a period of 24 hours for a period of 6 to 7 hours would be roughly right, but I wouldn't say 6 to 7 hours is exactly the same for everybody. Some people might need more than that, some people might need less than that. Sleep until you feel fresh when you wake up. So that is key to that. Second thing is listen to your body. So listen to your body is very essential. When you feel hungry, you put something into your mouth. It's not necessary that you have to go for a full-fledged meal. At least have a fruit. So if the body is asking for food, that is the time when it needs something to be put inside. And then proper exercises, proper regular exercises will give. So all this are stress relief factors as well. I think this I had mentioned in my previous session as well. These are 3 dinacharyas or daily regimens which can be practiced to stay away from stress.
So can I then make the conclusion that even taking care of the body will help you reduce the stress levels? So reduce the stress from the body will also reduce the stress from the mind?
Yes, very much, Lisette.
And most likely, does it then also work the other way around?
Of course it does. That is why we have a science called yoga. So it talks about the control of the mind as well as the body. I mean, very, very simply putting it, that's why it works together in tandem.
There's something added, mind your mind and find peace.
Very true, very true.
Thank you for that nice addition.
I hope all of you have put your feedbacks. I would be very happy and curious to know your feedbacks. Please put your feedbacks in the feedback link provided. It also helps us to have continuous such sessions. You know, it helps. This is also a part of stress relief when you have discussions among equals. So that is good.
Yes, actually, that is correct. To limit the exposure to negative or bad people, and surround yourself with positive.
Anybody?
Sorry, I muted you again.
Anybody has any questions to ask? Or any suggestions as well?
You can do that by chat. You might unmute yourself, put the camera on. Do some.
I have another question about depression. In Europe, there are quite some people having depression, and I lately read an article about low-grade inflammation in the body. So I was asking myself, is that correct, that low-grade inflammation causes depression? And if so, what can Ayurveda offer in order to help people with these kind of depressions?
Yes. So depression is considered as a very vast topic in Ayurveda. It has many types of depression. There is Vataja, Pittaja, Kaphaja. As usual, when you have the classification in most of the diseases, depression also has classifications there. Now, depression is, when you think in the modern sense, you have classifications based on the type of the cause. Now, depending on the cause, the depression is also considered. Now, depression is also classified on the stages of what they are experiencing, the patient is experiencing. There is depression with insight, there is depression without insight. So many things come in. So, Ayurveda has solutions for all of this. The thing is, I cannot generalize and say something, but we have generalized treatments like Virechana, which is pertaining to the body, which also helps to the mind, and adding of medicines like Mahakalyanaka Ghritam, which helps in depression. Rather, Mahakalyanaka Ghritam helps in Vataja depression and Brahmi Ghritam helps in Kaphaja. So that is again very different for different types of depression. There is also treatments like the Shirodhara, where the medicine also is selected based on the patient and the type of depression. The oil or the kashaya is selected, or maybe even milk based kashayas are selected depending on the type of depression. Now, I had a mother and son who were both suffering from depression, who had totally different kinds of treatments. Now, the mother had a treatment based on oil used for Shirodhara, the treatment on the head, and talam, and the combination is based on oil. For the son, it was shira, so it was milk based treatment done, because that was pittaja depression, shira was used. So that is a very generalized statement, but still I would say. So I selected certain medicines according to the type of problem he was facing, the things he were talking about, because I had a very detailed, not just one session, 4 or 5 sessions with each of them, talking to them to understand more. And then only I did go for treatment, because I wanted to know whether they need treatment or not. That's the first thing. Only then I went for treatment. I went for medications as well. Like, for one person it was Mahakalyanaka Ghritam, while the other person needed Brahmi Ghritam. But in the modern sense, both were suffering from one problem called depression.
Thank you. That is, again, a nice, at least if I listen to this, that Ayurveda is always advocating for the individual treatment and the source. It's a system that tries to find the root, the cause of the disturbance, and not so much that tries to find a one-size-fits-all outfit for things that happen. We all have different. We are all different beings. We have all different constitutions. We have lived different environments. If we just see that, us here from the Dutch side of the screen, and then you. That sounds a bit divisive, but even those, that is such different environments. And Ayurveda is so nice because it serves everyone in their best individual possible way.
Very true, Lizard. That's why medicines are very different for different individuals with the same kind of trouble. It might look same on the outset, but if we go deeper into the situation, the person is having different troubles. So a person with, for example, a person with schizophrenia, again, there are types of schizophrenia even in the modern sense. So we can call it an unmada for better understanding. That is the Ayurvedic, I wouldn't say equivalent, but similarity is there. Now, in Unmada, there is a person with Kaphaja Unmada who is leading to depression. So Kaphaja Unmada always leads to depression. The patient is always silent. The patient is always brooding. The patient does not take food, does not take water. So that is similar, that is signs of Kaphaja Unmada. Now in Vataja Unmada, Asthane Bhashyam, Asthane Nrityam, Asthane Vak. So Asthane, where it is not suitable, that is Asthana. So wherever there is, it is not suitable dancing, wherever it is not suitable talking, wherever it is not suitable crying, all these are signs told in Vataja Unmada, which is again a type of schizophrenia. Now that particular patient would need different types of treatment where the mind is made to come down to calmer levels. Whereas in case of the Kafajonmada, where the patient is always brooding, the patient needs treatments to elevate the mind, to make the mind more active. So that is why the difference is there in treatments.
And that is, I think, in essence, similar to what we started the session about with the gunas. So depending on where the individual is unbalanced, is it more in a rajasic, lethargic, or in an active, sorry, rajasic, active, or tamasic, the more lethargic, or that we try to find how to get the patient more to the sattvic, like the neutral, like the state, right? Is that correct? I understand. I mean, it's
Yes, yes. Just like how you treat the body for the doshas coming back to equilibrium, the same thing you have to treat the mind, bringing the gunas to equilibrium. Actually, the gunas are also called as manorogas. I mean, manodoshas. Sattva is only guna. Whereas Rajas and Tamas is actually also playing roles as doshas, because those can create trouble. Sattva doesn't create trouble.
I see in the chat I've missed some messages. Sasi Barrier has requested everyone to start their video. So if the people that are still present, you could do that. And otherwise, maybe for the next time, we could invite people to share video, because I agree. I think if we have videos, it's easier to start a conversation. And that's, at least for me, something for next time. Then there is another comment. Thank you very much for the interesting session. And unfortunately, in the Netherlands, Ayurvedic doctors take much less time to get to know the patient. The general doctors are even worse, which I can relate to. They only focus on treating symptoms and not interested in the whole system and imbalances causing the symptoms. And that is unfortunate, is added, and I agree. It's also my experience.
That is very true. And that is why what I do is, it's not that I look for so many number of patients in a day. I don't want to do that. What I do is, whatever patients I am catering to, I need to have time enough for them. So that is why my bookings are done. Prior bookings are done in my clinics, and it is done on time basis. Now, if a patient is selected, the patient is given a period of 20 to 25 minutes time, depending on their difficulty. That is again judged by the doctor, the junior doctor who's present there in the clinic, and they book the time. I have given them the freedom to book whatever timing they are pleased about of the patient on that particular day, and I have given them the number also is at their freedom. So if they feel that the patients are not given enough time by me, they would cut down. They would give them another slot later. So that is how. Or maybe if the lunch hour can be shortened, they shorten that and give the patient the lunch hour time. So something like that. So accordingly, I work. So I work on a prior appointment basis because of this. Because I have seen this. When I was working in my post-graduation, my HOD used to have 180 to 200 patients over a period of 12 hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Now, that is good, because over 12 hours, that number is fine. But if it was reduced to 9 to 5, that is the actual time of the OPD. But she used to sit from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and we used to sit with her. So if that is the long time, if we have, that is fine. But if we have a time period of 9 to 5, it is not right. It is not right on the part of the doctor. It is not right for the patient. You are not justifying the patient's presence. So you have to listen to the patient and understand, and then give a solution. Because we have been there. We are there only to give solutions. I don't say we are there to give medicines. We are there to give solutions.
Thank you. All right. So I think it is time for maybe a last question. Maybe all the questions have already been asked, so that we can come to a conclusion of this session. Maybe there are some suggestions for next topics, and maybe there are still some suggestions, like, for example, maybe next time the camera can be added. So this is the last call.
The certificates will be sent by mail in a period of 24 hours because we are 2 people just working on this. So we might need a little extra time. So please give us 24 hours to send you the certificates.
Yes, we get 2 suggestions already, metabolism and digestion.
That is just one suggestion I would say, because digestion involves metabolism.
Exactly. So I think we have here are from both West and East. We have the same energy. So we have, if I might go ahead again, we found our next topic.
I think so.
Well then, I'm going to mute you once again. I would like to thank everyone still present. I would also like to thank everyone who was present and is unable to hear it now, and maybe even thank everyone who will watch this online.
Hormonal balance, health, digestion. Again, relating to metabolism, I guess. Because metabolism, the word meaning encompasses all this.
All right. I see
And
your mind is already spinning.
Exactly. We have a very beautiful word in Sanskrit or in Ayurveda to encompass all of this. It's called Agni, the fire.
Mm. Yes, great. Well, that is a perfect way of ending this session with fire for the next and energy for next episode. So thanks everyone. Yes, for your presence, for the contributions, for the new questions that popped in my mind. And I look forward to seeing you next time.